Hello everyone, today I'm working on this F7. It's in pretty good shape actually. Other than it's got this one-of-a-kind custom paint job, which has a little bit of weathering. Honestly, it's in pretty good shape. This little guy, it's missing the headlight, unfortunately, but the rest of the body is in pretty good shape. So I'm gonna explain to you the shell removal on this, which is a little bit harder than your average diesel, but it can be done. To get the shell off, I use 4 toothpicks. But first I have to remove the front coupler. So this is a very nice microtrans conversion, which I'm going to reuse. I have 4 other Pennsylvania F7s, so this will go well with that. I'm gonna struggle with my screw off screen, off camera. So once the screw is out, it is not very easy to work with this. It in fact will come apart, and you have to track the very little spring. But it can be done, even though it's not very easy. You have to ease it in there very slowly. There you go. So I'm going to put that in my box so I don't lose it. And then after the windows, the plastic windows actually have a notch in them around here, and they'll hold the body with the drive system. So I'm going to put my toothpicks in there at the 4 places. I'm going to be very careful not to break these ladders here. So let's get to work on that. There's a small tab that holds the body to the frame, and once you know that, that's actually pretty easy. You can just pull gently on the frame, and it should spread out, come out slowly. So I got the back part nice and easy. Here comes the front part. Well, I'll show you the windows so you know exactly what's going on. So these are your porthole windows, and they just come in and line up with these pins on the frame, and they stick out through the body. So there you go. It's just a simple trick, but it holds the body there pretty solidly. I also have to remove the windows before I paint it. I mean, the paint job is pretty decent. I could use it like that. It looks okay, but I would much rather redo it. It's gonna look much better. I'm going to do a Pennsylvania Railroad paint scheme, but I'm going to do the simplified scheme that they had in the late 60s. A lot of railroad in the late 60s went to a more simplified scheme, and that makes it easier to paint. So this used to be a Pennsylvania unit. The guy just added this stripe at the bottom, which covers the Pennsylvania stripe. Then probably just painted this over. So because it's in such good shape, it's going to be an easy paint job. Also, I took the time to wash it thoroughly with my toothbrush and some soap to get all the dust off. So while my paint is drying, I'm going to take a look inside of my drive system. I'm going to start by removing the gas tank. 2 little tabs over here. And then there's a plate here for the front couplers. that usually pops out pretty easy. There we go. There's another tab here just to hide the light from when you're looking from the windows. And then your two screws that we are used to. And this is a split frame. So this is actually a really good running locomotive. Let the screws come out. These should just come right out nice and easy. Here we go. And then this will give you enough slack just to remove the two trucks. And then we can take a look inside. There's a little circuit board over here on this side for the light, and the two spacers, the two insulators. Overall, this looks pretty good, I have to say. Doesn't look like there's anything wrong with this. So I'm just going to do a little bit of lubrication and then I'll put it back together. So the motor itself is in fact a little bit noisy. Just to give you an idea here. So that's not normal, of course. So what I do then is I hold the rotor and I twist the bearings off. On an F3 like that, they're pretty easy to come off. And I'll do the same thing for the other side. Just twist them. That allows me to take them off. And then I can have access to the little bearing here, which I'm going to oil. So I'll do one side and I'll play with it to make sure that all the oil gets in there. So I'm doing this off camera. Already sounds much better. That's how I do it. I start from the motor and then I keep adding stuff. So as you put the engine back in the motor, back in its place, very important that these two little cradles be exactly where they go, in that little cavity. They absolutely need them to put the flywheels in their exact place. This will reduce noise, but it also will feel good. So before I put everything back, I'll check it one more time to be sure that everything is where it should be and that the engine's running well. Sounds pretty good. So now I'll just put back the other half. And I'll put the screws in, but I won't tighten them all the way. I'll give myself some slacks. So when I want to bring the trucks back in, I have just a little bit of slack to be able to do it. Just enough so that they're in their place. And now I'll get to work on the trucks. This is pretty much the same system as an RS3, or even they had a GP38-2 in those days. So it looks like it was already a pretty good runner, but since I have it in my hands, I'm going to clean the wheels. All you got to do is pry between here. So I hold the center one with my thumb, and then the outside one, I'll just push it down very slowly. This shouldn't be using a lot of strength. Just push them down like that. And then you have the plastic part and your wheels and the two gears. And there's also a little brass pin here that helps us for electrical pickup. So don't forget about that. It can run without it, but it's very nice to have it. It's got a lot of lubrication already. I don't think I'm going to do anything to that. Maybe just clean the wheels. I'll put it on the track and see how it runs. Maybe it runs good like that. If that's the case, then terrific. So I'll use my rag just to clean the wheels out. And that changes everything. So my shell came back from the paint shop. Looks very shiny. And that brings me to what I wanted to work on, which is the missing headlight. For that, I'm going to show you an old school trick. Brass models used to come without windows or headlights. So what people did is they would just put a little piece of Scotch tape to prevent the filler from escaping. So just a little piece of tape, and they would fill it in the back with epoxy, which is what I'm about to do. So they would use clear epoxy like this, and they would make their windows and headlights out of that for brass models. So I'll keep mixing this up off camera. Now I mixed a lot. You probably don't need that much. And then all you gotta do is backfill this. You really don't need a lot, but the trick is to make sure that it gets all the way inside there, all the way to the end. So I'm going to keep working on that off camera. So you really don't need much, just make sure that it goes in there all the way. I'm going to let this set for about a day. So now it's time for the big reveal. So I have to do is take out my tape. And I'll give it a chance to focus here. But look at that. It doesn't look as good as the factory part, but still very pleased with the outcome. I tried it one time with some clear plastic glue, but the glue as it dries, it becomes smaller, whereas the epoxy will retain its shape more. So now I'm ready for decals. I like to use micro scale decals. This paint scheme is actually rare. There's not too many units that were made like that. I had a hard time getting the a picture of this. So only a handful of units were done like that. But since I'm custom painting this, I'd prefer to have something original. But also it's a very easy paint scheme to duplicate. So if you're a beginner, it's great. Actually, I'm going to keep putting on the decals off camera. Just line this one up properly. So I finished placing my decals now. So if you're a beginner, Maybe you're happy with the results. It's very shiny, but otherwise it's done. I'm gonna go an extra step and I'm gonna put on some dull coat. So while my dull coat is drying, I'm going to put my trucks back together. I took the time, I wanted to paint the side frames black, so I did. This little pin here is going to sit over here with these two pins. So I'm going to put this back together for you. So while I'm putting it together, I'm being mindful of that, just to make sure everything's in its right place. So they can move around a little bit, so you have to be mindful of that too. So this will just go over the wheels like this. Nice and easy. And you should feel it clicking what sits in there properly. And I also check for those little pins, make sure that they're at the right place and that they can pick up electricity for the wheels also. You can test it with your finger. It should be very, very low resistance. That looks pretty good to me. I'm gonna do the front one off camera. Now I'm gonna put them back on their frames. My screws are still not quite tight, so I have a little leeway. That'll give me enough room to put my trucks back in. And I'm using gravity as my friend to hold the trucks in. And now I can tighten my screws. See, gravity's holding my parts where I want them. They don't have to be all that tight. And put the gas tank back. The gas tank also, there's only one place where it can fit, so that's easy. And the light shield. And a little coupler. And I'm going to test it on the track just to make sure that it's running the way I like. Now it's running great. So these are heavy, they can pull many cars. They run very quiet. I would definitely recommend this to you. It's a really good engine to get. So while I was working on my drive, my shell drive, it's really come a long way. Very good stuff. Very happy with the results. Now I'm going to put my windows back in. So that looks amazing. Now I'll put the shell back on its drive. You probably hear it clicking. There we go. And I have to put the little coupler back in also. It takes a little bit of work to get it there. Well, it's come a long way. Looks pretty good. And now it's time to run some trains. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly had fun making it for you.
See you soon.